Welcome to this presentation from Australian tax experts, specialist tax lawyers and accountants. Today we are covering a question that many taxpayers find themselves asking when they receive correspondence from the ATO. Is this an audit? Is it a review? And does the distinction actually matter? The short answer is yes. It matters enormously. The type of process determines your rights, your obligations, the ATO's powers, and how you should respond. This presentation explains the key distinctions clearly and practically, so that if you or your business ever receives ATO correspondence, you will know exactly what you are dealing with and what to do next. Let's begin. This slide establishes why the distinction between an ATO review and an ATO audit is not merely semantic, it is practically significant. Many taxpayers who receive ATO correspondence assume the worst, that they are being formally audited, and that serious consequences are imminent. In reality, the ATO uses a range of different compliance processes, and understanding which one you are in is the first critical step. The three areas where the distinction matters most are your rights, the ATO's powers, and your response strategy. In a review, you have considerably more flexibility. The ATO is seeking information cooperatively, and you retain a degree of control over the framing and scope of what you provide. In a formal audit, the ATO's powers are much broader, including formal notices, premises access, and third-party information gathering. And your strategy, what you say, what you provide, and in what order, should differ entirely based on which process you are in. A taxpayer who treats an ATO review like casual correspondence can inadvertently trigger a wider audit. Equally, a taxpayer who understands they are in a review rather than a formal audit can often resolve the matter much more efficiently. This slide gives you the complete landscape at a glance. All four ATO compliance processes are ranged from least to most formal. Number one is the ATO review, the most common and least formal process. The ATO is seeking clarification on specific items, and the exchange is essentially correspondence-based. No formal statutory powers have been invoked. Number two is the formal audit, a structured, comprehensive examination of tax affairs with significantly broader ATO powers. Number three is the Statement of Audit Position, also called a position paper. This is issued by the ATO during a formal audit before it finalises its findings. It gives the taxpayer one final opportunity to respond and potentially change the ATO's view. This is a critical document. Number four is the Amended Assessment, the ATO's formal revised tax bill. This triggers a strict 60-day objection window. We will look at each of these in more detail on the following slides. A review is the ATO's most common compliance activity. The ATO identifies specific items in your tax return that it wants to understand better. This might be a deduction that appears disproportionately large relative to your income, or an item that does not match data the ATO holds from third parties such as banks, employers, or share registries. The key characteristics of a review are shown on the left card. It is conducted entirely by correspondence. It is asking questions rather than making findings. And the information exchange is essentially voluntary at this stage. No formal notice powers have been invoked. However, wherein the right card carries this critical warning, a review can escalate. If your response is unsatisfactory, or if it inadvertently reveals further areas of concern, the ATO can escalate to a formal audit with significantly broader powers. This is why every ATO review letter, however seemingly innocuous, should be reviewed by a professional advisor before you respond. The way you respond to a review can either resolve the matter quickly and efficiently, or trigger a much wider and more costly process. Never treat a review letter as routine correspondence. A formal audit is substantially more serious than a review, and the ATO's powers expand considerably once it enters formal audit territory. The powers box shows what the ATO can do in a formal audit. It can issue formal notices requiring the production of specific documents, and you must comply. It can access your business premises and inspect your records. It can seek information directly from third parties, including banks, employers, and business associates, without needing to ask you first. These powers are exercised unilaterally, regardless of your consent. What triggers a formal audit? The most common triggers are shown on the lower left card. An unsatisfactory response to an earlier review, the ATO's risk assessment systems flagging your affairs as higher risk, an industry-specific task force, such as those targeting the cash economy or offshore income, or information received from a third party, including anonymous tip-offs. On the scope and duration, a formal audit may cover a single tax year or span multiple years. The standard amendment period is 4 years, but in cases involving fraud or evasion, there is no time limit at all. Legal representation from day one of a formal audit is strongly advisable, not optional. This slide covers 2 distinct documents, both of which carry strict time limits and require immediate professional attention. The amended assessment on the left is the ATO's formal revised tax bill. It states the additional tax it considers is owed, the administrative penalties imposed, and the general interest charges that have accumulated. The red box is the most important element on the left side. You have 60 days from the date of the amended assessment to lodge an objection. Miss this deadline and you may lose your right to dispute. The statement of audit position on the right is issued during a formal audit before the amended assessment is finalised. It sets out the ATO's preliminary findings. This is your last meaningful opportunity to persuade the ATO to change its view. This distinction matters enormously. Many taxpayers wait until the amended assessment is issued before taking action. That is understandable, but it misses the opportunity presented by the position paper stage. A well-constructed legal and factual response to a position paper can, in many cases, lead the ATO to substantially revise its findings. As the call-out box states, responses to position papers must always be prepared by a specialist tax lawyer. The stakes at this stage are very high. This comparison table gives you a clear, practical reference to quickly identify which process you're in and what it means. Let me walk through the key rows. ATO powers. In a review, the ATO has no compulsory powers. The information exchange is informal. In a formal audit, the ATO can issue formal notices and access third parties without your consent. Formality level. A review is conducted by correspondence only. A formal audit is a legally structured, enforceable process. Your obligations. In a review, disclosure is essentially voluntary. In a formal audit, you are legally required to comply with notices. Can it escalate? Yes, on both counts. A review can escalate into a formal audit. A formal audit can result in an amended assessment. Time limits. There is no fixed statutory deadline for responding to a review, but you should respond promptly. By contrast, once an amended assessment is issued, there is a strict 60-day window to lodge an objection. And finally, do you need a specialist? Yes, in both cases. In a review, advice should be taken before any response is sent. In a formal audit, legal representation should be engaged from day 1, not day 5. The answer to this slide's central question is unequivocally yes. 3 distinct risk patterns illustrate why. The first is the casual response risk. Many taxpayers receive a review letter and treat it like routine administrative correspondence, responding informally, sometimes by phone, sometimes providing documents they haven't reviewed carefully. This is how positions get conceded unnecessarily. This is how reviews escalate into audits. The second is the over-disclosure risk. Providing more information than the ATO has specifically asked for, even with the best of intentions, can expand the scope of the inquiry. The ATO's job is to identify what it does not already know. What you volunteer can help it do that. What you choose not to say, within the boundaries of your legal obligations, can be just as important as what you do say. The third is the timing risk. Different processes carry different deadlines. A taxpayer who waits until after a position paper to engage professional help may find that the opportunity to reshape the ATO's preliminary findings has passed. A taxpayer who misses the 60-day objection window has potentially lost their right to challenge an assessment that may have been incorrect. Each of these risks is entirely manageable, but only if you understand which process you're in and respond accordingly. The short answer is as early as possible. The earlier we are involved, the more options we have available to protect your interests. At Australian Tax Experts, we regularly assist clients who have been managing ATO correspondence themselves for months before coming to us, often having inadvertently worsened their position along the way. This slide gives you 4 specific trigger points. The first, shown in green, is on receipt of any ATO letter. before you have opened any dialogue with the ATO officer. This is where most mistakes are made. The second, in amber, is when escalation is threatened. If the ATO indicates that a review may become a formal audit, engaging a specialist at this juncture can often prevent that escalation altogether. The third, in purple, is on receiving a formal audit notice. Legal representation from day one is not optional. The fourth, in red, is when a position paper arrives. This is your last opportunity to change the ATO's view before the amended assessment is issued. At Australian Tax Experts, we have successfully changed the ATO's position at this stage in numerous matters, in some cases reducing the proposed assessment by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The consistent message across all 4 trigger points is the same. Earlier is always better. So, should you contact Australian Tax Experts? If you have received a review letter and are unsure how to respond, yes. Do not respond to the ATO before taking advice. If you have received a formal audit notice, yes, from day one. If you have received a statement of audit position, yes, urgently. This is your last opportunity to change the ATO's view before the assessment is finalised. If you have received an amended assessment and are considering an objection, yes, time limits apply immediately. If you are concerned that a review may be escalating into a formal audit, yes, now is the time to engage, while options are still open. The consistent message throughout this presentation has been the same. Earlier engagement gives you more options, better outcomes, and greater protection against the mistakes that most commonly occur when taxpayers navigate ATO correspondence without specialist support. Australian Tax Experts is a team of specialist tax lawyers and accountants. We would be delighted to have a confidential, obligation-free conversation about your situation. You can reach us at australiantaxexperts.com.au. Thank you for your time today.